Hello everyone and welcome to Sutton's Days and to this week's canning chat. This has the potential to be epic. I didn't count how many pages. I just kind of copied all the questions and I went, ooh, that's 5 pages. Okay, so we're gonna get through them though. Lots of good questions. So I hope that you guys stick around for all of them. I will work to get the timestamps down below. Cross your fingers, okay? Let's get started. Mary Gallagher provided some really good information in reference to a question that we had last week, just out of curiosity. You know, what happens if you have a flood and your canning jars are floating? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm thinking they'd be okay as long as they didn't break or chip or anything like that. Mary Gallagher said that flood water can be highly contaminated. Both the Iowa State University Extension Service and the University of Illinois Extension Service have written articles about flood-contaminated food. They state that all jars of home canned food and any store-bought food in jars that either have screw-top or crimp-top lids and that have come into contact with floodwater must be discarded. As to the siphoning question, that was a whole nother thing. So I just wanted to put it out there because legit, you know, I don't even have the option for flooding here, okay? And it's not something that I've ever encountered or really given any serious thought to. So according to these two resources that Mary Gallagher has provided for us, you should get rid of them. I don't know, you know, but we're going to err on the side of caution and say, let's not save them, okay? So I have addressed that. Thank you, Mary, for that information. Connie McCrate says, I found lots of Golden Harvest canning lids and I'm wondering if they will work on ball or mason jars. Absolutely. Golden Harvest they've been around for a long time, okay, just not widely spread, I guess. And they're starting to creep up and show up at Walmart of all places. Before, the only place I could ever find them was Dollar General. So we've got, you know, Golden Harvest lids cropping up and people are saying, are they right? Yes. Golden Harvest lids are produced by the same manufacturer, the same parent company, Newell, who makes ball and cure lids, or care, and Rubbermaid and 400 other products. So yes, they're perfectly good. They will fit your jars. They're awesome. Grab them up because they're normally very affordable. The average price that I'm seeing is $1.47, which means they have not changed their price in a very long time. Way to go, Golden Harvest. I mean, and that begs the question, why can they do that and nobody else can? I don't know. Okay, Linda Sforza. Linda Sforza. Okay. Really enjoying your canning chats. Awesome. I canned coleslaw last week and used a mix of green and red cabbage and noticed the colors are changing from vivid to dull. Is this normal? Okay, so I'm going to link up a couple articles down below about canning cabbage, or not canning cabbage, but canning coleslaw, okay? So the coleslaw is normally a fermented product. As such, if you can it, you tend to negate any benefits that you have from fermenting it. And there's a couple different opinions of how can you do it, should you do it, all that fun stuff down below. It's not something that I do or have done. Phil and I really like fresh coleslaw. I'm more the creamy coleslaw person than the vinegar kind of coleslaw person. So, you know, fermented coleslaw is not something that we would normally embrace. It's something that I'm probably going to try here in the near future, but it's not something we do currently. So check out those links down below. I know that people in our group have done it. It's probably Rebel Canning, you know. So make your decision from there, but I can't tell you about the color because I don't know. I do know that sugar is what retains the color in a lot of your fruits and vegetables if you're pickling them or, you know, preserving them. So reducing the sugar or eliminating the sugar, they'll go brown. That could be it. It could be the color of the cabbage that you put in there. The red cabbage would tend to bleed. Just like red onions do, you know, so I don't know, but check out the links below because hopefully these will have some answers for you, okay? The next one is from Diane Amaral. I bought instant rice and put it in the freezer for a few days. Do I put oxygen absorbers in the bag before you put it in a 5-gallon bucket? Jasmine rice also still in the original bag, or should I just wait until the rice is room temp and put it in jars with or without oxygen absorbers? Okay, so you put it in the freezer. I would highly recommend not putting it in the freezer. By putting it in the freezer, when you pull it out, you're providing an opportunity for condensation. Water is one of the things, you know, that is very bad when you're trying to preserve long-term dry goods. So I don't recommend it. And if you're going to use oxygen absorbers, it's completely unnecessary. The lack of oxygen will kill off any larvae that might be in with the rice. So, you know, the two shouldn't meet. So yes, I would pull it out, make sure that it is completely dried. I'd literally give it a couple weeks, okay? Move the bag around every couple of days. Make sure that it's completely dry, because putting it in the freezer causes condensation 9 out of 10 times. So you want to make sure that it's completely dry. If you put in the O2 absorbers, totally your preference, then you'll be all good, okay? I personally would put them in Mylar bags with O2 absorbers, and then you'll be really good for a long time. That to me is the best way to do it. So I hope that answers your question, okay? And if you do decide to put it in jars, you know, that's another way to do it. And O2 absorbers in the jar would again negate any oxygen. It would take it all out, and so nothing will live. So it does the same thing as freezing without the condensation. Okay, so now we have Danelle Cullen. My canner wants to sit between 11 and 13 on the electric plate on almost warm when I pressure can. Is this a problem? All my jars have sealed and what we have eaten tastes great. Okay. It's sealed. You're doing it for the right time, okay? And your sweet spot is somewhere between 11 and 12. Your required pressure is 11, so you're good. Now, would I do it at 15? No, because that's going to overprocess, okay? But if you can keep it, you know, 12, okay, then you're perfectly good. If they all sealed, they're good. If you're enjoying them, they're good. Congratulations, you did it. Okay, now we have AJ Regala. What is the best method for storing vegetables for the longest period of time? And a few people, I think, chimed in answering this for you, and I'm going to kind of go right along with them. Okay, so if you're looking for long-term storage, the best method is freeze-dried. If you can purchase the freeze-dried, do that. Okay, that gives you 25 years, 25 years, depending, and as long as you don't open that can. Okay, and once you open that can, you've got like a year, but you can extend that by taking those same vegetables, putting them into other containers in smaller amounts, you know, if you've got a number 10 size can, and vacuum sealing those. They'll last you longer than, you know, the year. But after that dehydration, make sure to use oxygen absorbers if they're necessary, or silica packs. And then after that is freezing. Freezing is good for most vegetables. And those are your best options for preserving vegetables, aside from canning. I'm big into the canning thing. Marcy Moran says, Lisa, I have a question. Do you water bath can in a stock pot? I absolutely do. I absolutely water bath can in a stock pot. You'll actually see it coming up next month when I do my contribution to Jamboree, which is a collaboration that's going to be happening. So I got rid of my great big water bath canner. I have 3 or 4 stock pots. So if I need to, you know, I don't water bath a whole lot of stuff. And if I have a big batch of something, I'll use my pressure canner as a water bath canner. I just don't fasten the lid. I just set it on top. So you can use any pot that gives you at least an inch of water over the top of your jars. Make sure that your jars are not sitting on the bottom of the pot, that there is a tray or something between them, and you're good to go. So yes, to answer your question, yes, I do. Okay, so now we have Tina Harvey. Tina Harvey. I just found out a couple of months ago that I'm considered a rebel canner. Never realized that using great-grandmother's canning book that was published in the 30s and another one that was published in the 40s that was put out by the government during World War II, some of the things like zucchini and milk is considered rebel canning. Is it because they did not study these items yet and published articles yet is the reason why, or is it because they've chosen not to do so that they can control what we are trying to eat? Okay, it's not a matter of controlling what we're eating. It's a matter of testing it for safety. Our food has changed significantly. That's 80 years, okay? That's 80 years. The dirt that we grow our food in, the feed that we feed our animals, everything about our food has significantly changed. The science behind this. Let me try to make this perfectly clear, okay? Because I say it all the time. This is not something that you do willy-nilly. This is science. This is done with science. It's not because I want to or because Kraft does it. You know, no, they have the right equipment to be able to control things that we can't do at home. Canning milk is not a safe canning practice because they cannot confirm, they have not tested it. I don't know if they've tested it, truthfully. You know, that it is safe to do this. Now, I've always done it and I'm still here. Is not a good answer ever to anybody, okay? So, you know, milk, butter, that kind of stuff, it's considered rebel canning. It's not safe. You'll get tons of different arguments about the milk. I wish I could give you more on it, but, you know, there are people out there that do it. I'm not one of them. I don't see the point, truth be told. It's just as easy to have powdered milk for any of your baking goods or anything like that. You know, why risk it? I'm not willing to risk it. Butter. A lot of people do butter. A lot of people do butter that they turn into ghee that they can. You know, I will do that. I have the how-to to do that. If there's ever a grid down situation and I have no choice, I will do that. I have a choice, so I'm not doing it. Okay, so Michelle P says, can you tell me if you vacuum seal beans, do you need oxygen absorbers in the bags? Okay. Beans are one of those forever foods, kind of, sort of, not really. Okay. They're good for a few years and then they will start to not be quite so good. So to elongate the time that it is good, I do use oxygen absorbers. Take them out of the bag that they came in from the store, put them into Mylar bags, use oxygen absorbers. Put them into jars, use oxygen absorbers. Okay. Number one, it kills off any larvae that might be in there. Yes, they can be in the bean. Okay. So that's kind of the, and it's just, you know, it's another safety precaution so you're not throwing out food. So if you vacuum seal them, you don't have to use an oxygen absorber, but keep an eye on them. You're pulling out the air with a vacuum sealer, just not as significantly as an O2, you know, an oxygen absorber. Okay. Lurker Smurf, so many new topics on canning chats. I know. She says, I've been seeing YouTube videos using lids and rings as mini removable bottom pie tins. They're adorable. I assume it ruins the lid. I would assume so. So I would only try it with used lids. But would it also ruin the ring for canning purposes to bake at 375? No. No. It's metal, so it should be just fine. There is a fly in the house, of course, and it's hanging out with me. So no, you're good. You're all good. Definitely only used rings though. Don't waste new rings on that. Yeah. Shady Acre Homestead says, first, thank you for all your help. Okay. Question, do you still raw pack white potatoes? I canned some the other day and used hot pack and they are too mushy for my taste. My dear husband eats them, so it's not a waste, but I believe last year I raw packed and like them much better. I truthfully don't remember raw packing them. I've always remembered blanching white potatoes because they are so high in starch that if you don't blanch them, your liquid in the jar gets extremely starchy. It kind of looks like glue and paste, you know, that kind of thing. So I don't remember ever not blanching them. Now, canned potatoes, period, that's the way they get. That's just the way they get, you know. I prefer using gold potatoes, the golden potatoes or the new potatoes. I like those much better than your Idaho, you know, white potatoes. Because they have less starch. I think they hold up better, but they're still going to be soft. But overall, I just like the end product a lot better than Idaho whites. But do what you can, do what you like, give it a try. If you don't blanch them, you will have extremely starchy liquid, which can also make it a lot mushier, you know. Okay, so Sue Downtown Mini Homesteader says, Lisa, what is the difference between clear gel and sure gel? Okay. Kind of like the difference between a screwdriver and a hammer, okay? A sure gel is a pectin. So you use that with jams and jellies, that kind of thing. Clear gel you use for pies, for making pies. So two different things. Lucy Thomas says, I'm very confused about the whole Jiggler and the pressure gauge. I'm using the Jiggler, but still watch the gauge. Stop watching the gauge. That's my really quick answer, okay? Pressure canning at 15 psi and the Jiggler starts doing its dance before the gauge gets to 15. That's because the Jiggler negates the gauge. The reading on the gauge is no longer reliable the minute you use a Jiggler. Do not look at the gauge, okay? Yes, you're overthinking it. Okay, so when it gets to the part where it's doing the hula dance, you're good. Set your timer. Ignore the gauge. It's it's a speedometer that does not work once you put that jiggler on your canner. Okay. Erica Taylor says, do I can pickles? Yes, I do. If so, do you start the process immediately, or can you refrigerate the cucumbers a couple of days before you start processing? Okay, so when I'm getting ready to process them, I have them typically, because I'm not known for doing small batches of anything really, I have all of the pickles in a cooler with a ton of ice because I want them to stay crisp. Okay, so there's serious ice water in there, and if you can store it like that for a couple of days, then you should be fine. Otherwise, you might run the risk of them getting a little softer than what you're anticipating, you know. But they do have a pickle crisp that you can put in there if you want. But yeah, I tend to ice them if I'm going to have. I tend to ice them even when I'm doing large batches because they're sitting there for so long. So I wouldn't put them in there for a couple of days. No, because they could get soft. They could get soft. Okay, so Valerie Fleshman says, I got a question for you. Why do they say to add lemon juice to tomatoes when pressure canning? I've pressure canned my tomatoes and sauce for decades and never ever heard of such a thing, even with the new low acid varieties. I can see it in Waterbath, but pressure canning. This confuddles a whole bunch of people because it makes sense. The reason we pressure can is because it's a low acid food, right? But they still recommend putting some kind of acid, whether it be lemon juice or citric acid, in with your tomatoes when you're pressure canning them. I honestly don't know why. I should probably email somebody and ask them, but maybe I will. But that's what the National Center for Home Food Preservation says to do. So that's what I recommend doing. That's what I do to make sure that I'm doing it safely and that I don't, you know, get rid of any family members early, or myself. Liz NYP, question please. She has a hand up, it's cute. I have canned for years, but one item still stumps me, blueberries. I almost always get some siphoning and a couple jars per session won't stay sealed. I've tried raw pack and hot pack, medium syrup, plain boiling water, tried 1 inch and half inch headspace and still get mixed results. I can't freeze all these berries, LOL. Okay, so I'm not sure what's happening, and because they won't stay sealed, I don't know if they're siphoning. I don't know enough information, but what I can tell you is that according to the National Center for Home Food Preservation, a ½ inch is all that you need for headspace. So you should never have more than a ½ inch headspace. Whether you do it with a simple syrup or whether you do it with plain water, you want to put the berries in there. You want to compact, not compact them down, but jiggle it so that they all kind of settle. You want to add your liquid, do a little debubbling, clean the rim, put your lid on, put them in for the time that it says in the link. I will put a link down below. I have no easy answer for you because I don't know enough to answer you accurately, but check to make sure that I honestly don't know. I mean, you're water bathing these, right? So they shouldn't be not sealing. But something is going on to where there's an interference with the lid, between the lid and the jar. The headspace is not it. So I would say just keep plugging away. Just go slow, trust the process, and see if it gets any better. And that's for any berry. So the link down below will be for any berry. And I'm going to be canning up some blueberries in this method this year, just to have some on hand and not in the freezer, so that when my freezer decides to go kaput, I'm not in the position that I am now. So check out the link below regarding the berries. Follow that exactly, okay? And then see if you still have the problems. Let me know. Sharon Dothage. I have smoked, then frozen pork loins that were on sale. Can I thaw them and then can for better longevity? Could I can smoked meat immediately after removing from the smoker? Okay, yes, you can smoked meat immediately. You don't have to freeze it. You don't have to do anything. And once you thaw out the meat that you froze, that you smoked, you can absolutely can it. Be sure to add a liquid to it, whether that's a broth or just water, whatever the case may be, and you will thoroughly enjoy it. Absolutely enjoy it. So go for it. Nancy Tabor says, can I store water in my empty jars with lids and rings and then use these flats for rings again for canning? I mean, okay. See, you guys do it to me. So if you are just putting water in a jar, okay, and then putting the lid on and screwing it on, you're fine. Go ahead. You can reuse those. If you are water bath canning them so that it's sterile water, then, or pressure canning it so it's sterile water, no, you cannot. Okay. Debbie Hammond, question. Is there really any problem pressure canning raw packed chicken and adding liquid to the, or broth to the jars? And somebody told her it's a disaster waiting to happen. No, it's not a disaster waiting to happen. What you want to make sure that you do is to pack your chicken loosely, okay? And then add the liquid, debubble. You want to make sure you debubble, okay? And then go ahead and can them. Absolutely no issue whatsoever. Go for it. Let's see. Donna Turner says, I understand that you can't use regular cornstarch when canning. Why not? And what is the difference between clear gel and cornstarch? Thank you, thank you. Okay, so clear gel, ready? Clear gel is used like regular cornstarch, but it is more stable at room temperature. So it is particularly good for canning. If it is, okay, it's activated by coming into contact with hot liquid. So clear gel is activated by coming into contact with hot liquid. It can be mixed in with dry ingredients when baking with fruit, or mixed with a bit of liquid and added to hot liquid to thicken sauces. So clear gel is more stable. It's activated by adding hot liquid to it. Cornstarch is a whole different thing. Yeah, it activates differently. I think I might have covered this last week. I'm not sure. So stick with the clear gel if you're canning. Cornstarch is not something you want to put into a canning jar, okay? Kelly Talley says, second time question. I'm sorry. I'm about to can some more ugly chicken, and I was wondering if I could put some zesty Italian dressing in the jar for flavor. Can I do this, or do I need to marinate and cook, then can? Okay. I do not recommend marinating. Marinating involves oil. Oil is not good in the canning process. Don't do it, okay? Now, the zesty Italian dressing, if you're not talking about the stuff in the bottle, if you're talking about the packet, read the ingredients in the packet. I don't have one handy. And see what the ingredients are. If it has cornstarch or flour in it, you shouldn't, okay? That being said, okay, I have put Fiesta Ranch Mix in my beans. You guys have seen it. It's one of my more popular videos. And it does have one of those ingredients in there. So it's Rebel canning, but they turn out great. So no on the liquid dressing, no on the marinating. Check out the ingredients on the back of the dry packet to see whether or not you want to risk it. Okay. Den Baby says, can you can Brussels sprouts without pickling them? No. There's no approved method for it, and they taste like the bottom of somebody's foot after they ran through the chicken run. They're gross. Yeah, no. Henry Cook says, how many jars do you usually can in a year? Well, Henry, I have about 1,000 jars on my shelf right now, and I'm easily going to be adding a few more hundred to that. So I would say that I typically have on my shelves somewhere around 1,300 to 1,500 jars that I maintain throughout the year. So that's my pantry. Carolyn Chapman says, hello from Australia. Hello. She's a newbie here. Her question is, I have a gas propane stove. However, it only has high and low settings, nothing in between. I have a Presto with a Jiggler. When I get to the processing time, I can only keep the pressure stable at 12, not 11. I've tried a couple of times, but this is all I can seem to get with limited settings. Will the food be okay? It'll be fine. It'll be perfect. It'll be fine. Enjoy it. That's your sweet spot. The Jiggler helps you. And see, what I don't get, though, is the Jiggler. If you're using the Jiggler, let me look at this. I have a, okay, no, you're not using the Jiggler. Oh, you are. You have the Jiggler. Okay. Stop looking at your gauge. Stop looking at your gauge. Trust the Jiggler. The gauge is absolutely useless once you put the Jiggler on there. Make sure that it's the Jiggler and not the regulator. I'll put a link down below to that video. You want to check that out to make sure that you're saying the right thing, okay? So if you are truly using the Jiggler, ignore the gauge. Otherwise, if you are using the regulator, 12 is fine. You'll be fine. Everything will be great. Nandy H. Do you increase the time for altitude with water bath canning? Okay, I'm going to put a link below to the National Center for Home Food Preservation. And if you look at it, okay, if you read the charts that go with it, your time changes depending on what you're canning and where you're canning it. So yes, the simple answer is yes. Go by what is in the charts for the National Center for Home Food Preservation. Don't guess at it, and you'll be just fine. Trust the process. Ginger says, how long should it take someone to stock up 6 months of food? There is no answer for that. It's different for every single person because every single person is widely different, not only in their food, the availability, and the funds or the space. There's no telling. There is no right time. Just work towards doing it. Keep plugging away, and you will get there. I promise. Okay, Diamond Gardener says, hello, I just tried fermenting cucumbers into pickles for the first time. It's only been a couple of days, so the jury is out on how they taste. There are 4 quarts that now have to live in my refrigerator. Can fermented vegetables be Waterbath canned to make them shelf stable? And this is kind of a repeat of an earlier question. You know, the simple answer is no. Canning is not the best way to preserve fermented foods, okay? Too much of the good stuff is lost under heat or pressure. If you want to preserve fermented foods, move them to a cold storage, the fridge, a cold cellar, or a freezer. That's the best way to do it. Let's see. Time to lose. Hello, canners. I'm a newbie, and I'm wondering if it's okay to marinate meat before you can it. No. No. Carolyn Bradshaw. Question. I recently bought a steam canner, which I've used twice. I heard you and some other trustworthy sources say that all is needed is to stay in the green zone for my altitude. The instructions say to stay in the green zone and maintain a low boil. Okay, so you're going to maintain a low boil. If you're in the green zone, you're going to maintain a low boil. They kind of work hand in hand. Pay attention to the green zone. That's your key right there, okay? Jay Schrock. I'm wanting to do most of my canning outside this year to help keep the house cool. We got a great deal on a propane camp stove and have a pressure canned green beans twice, and that has worked great. Wondering if you have any tips or advice of things I should be careful with my jars, or any tips for setting up a makeshift summer kitchen to can in. I don't have one. I don't can outside. And my big thing is because we have a lot of, you know, animals around here. And so the last thing that I need is a jar cooling off overnight outside and a raccoon deciding it wants to play. That would really blow my entire day. You know what I mean? As long as you're canning the right BTUs for your pressure canner so that you don't warp it, set it up however it best works for you. You want to make sure there's no wind. You want to make sure, you want to make sure you've blocked any wind so that it doesn't impact the fuel source and the heat coming up to it. And you should be good. I hope you enjoy it. It sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like fun. It's just not something I'm willing to risk with the animals around here. Peter Boyle says, hi Lisa, I've been watching your channel for some time and I trust your opinions. Thank you. I've been canning butter in half-pint wide-mouth jars, double stacked in my Miro canner. I recently purchased a 921 All-American and can fit 24 half-pint wide-mouth jars, 3 high with a rack between tiers. Is this safe to do? Absolutely safe to do. If it fits, it ships, right? So it's absolutely safe to do. Congratulations on your new canner. That's a great thing to have. You got it. Carla Mullenberg. How you doing, Carla? I received my first canner this week. Yay! And I'm so excited to start canning. I took your advice given in one of your videos and did a test session with only water in my jars, but did not waste any lids. Cool. I started the process. A steady stream of steam was coming out of my canner, waited 10 minutes, put on my jiggler, and waited for my jiggler to do its thing, which it did, and about 15 minutes later, we lost power. The power was out for over 2 hours. Since I was only canning water, I did not panic. However, if it would have been food in my jars, what should I have done? Okay, the batch would not have been completely ruined. There was more, but it would have been fine. So if something like that were to happen, what you would want to do is to let that canner completely cool down, okay? It's depressurize on its own. Take the thing off. Let it cool down, however quickly you have to. You'll probably have to replace the lids. Try to get that stuff into the refrigerator quickly, or let it cool off and get into the refrigerator, or get a cooler with some ice. The thing is, it depends on how long your power is out. If you're talking 15 minutes, you're fine. Let it sit. You know, if you're talking half an hour, you're fine. Let it sit. But you're going to start the entire process over again. If you're talking about overnight, you're going to have to find a way to get that food into some kind of cooled environment. So it wouldn't be totally lost, but it would be a challenge because you don't necessarily want to have your refrigerator open during that, right? And in Australia, it's kind of hot. So if you have a way to get ice on it and put it in a cooler and just close them up, you're going to have to replace all the lids to start it over again, but you didn't lose all the food. So that's a bonus. So it's a good thing to think about, though. I mean, it's one of those things to pay attention to. I know myself and some other folks, if we know really bad weather's coming, we don't pull out the canner, you know. But sometimes power outages don't have anything to do with the weather. It happens. Shonda Hulbert says, I'm new to your channel and I'm so glad I found you. I'm so glad you did too. I have been watching past videos and have not heard this question. How many times can you reuse jars? Okay. Welcome to the channel. Because you are new here, you haven't heard me say it. I buy almost exclusively used jars. And I can tell you that some of these jars have been used a lot. So those jars are good unless they crack, unless they chip, you know, unless they break. Those jars are perfectly good. Keep using them. The really old ones, like the blue ball ones from way back when, you know, some really vintage ones that you can slap a date on. But those blue ones specifically, don't pressure can in anymore. I wouldn't even water bath can in them. They're pretty. Just pet them and love them and squeeze them. But I've got jars dating back to the early 1900s that I still pressure can in. If you're not working in this house, you're not staying in this house, pretty much for the most part, except for some of my jars. Okay, so you know, use them until you can't use them anymore. Great question. Okay, God's Third Acre. She asked this last night on Monday Night Live. If you guys haven't checked that out, it was a really fun Monday Night Live. So go check it out. Question, I never know when to start timing when I water bath can. I know when it comes to a boil, but how hard of a boil? Okay, so the thing that we discussed last night, I'll repeat what I said last night to her, but for everybody's benefit, I bring the water up to a full boil before I put the jars in there, okay? So that water is doing some serious boiling. As I add the jars, it diminishes, but once you get it in there and it starts to boil, now she said like one or two bubbles. No, you know, get it to a medium, but you don't need a full-blown, you know, boil. But if you get it to that medium boil, put the lid on it, start your timer, you're good to go. I hope that you enjoyed this week's canning chat. A lot of really good questions, you guys. And I hope that if you have any more questions, you throw them in the comment section below. It was a lot of fun. We will have a canning chat next Wednesday. And if I didn't answer your question this week, I think I did. I think I got everybody. Then be sure to put second time down below and I will answer it next week. And remember, if you like what we do here, please hit that like, subscribe, and share. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. Be sure to check out some of our other videos and playlists. And until next time, be safe.